The phone,
Understood.
the phone is Siobhan.
Okay.
Hey, Siobhan on the phone.
Okay.
Thanks.
Awesome. Glad to have you here just in time for the intro, and it's a long intro, and rightly so.
No. If it's long, you got a bio, not an intro. We don't want don't read the bio. They can go and look at my website for the bio. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. And let me pull from that since it's handy. But I do like the way that you open that. This isn't a presentation; it's an explanation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Shep Hyken, CSP CPAE, he's going to be sharing strategies that he's learned over the last, he just said 40 years, I think he just said.
Yeah, coming up 39 years.
Wow.
40 next year, 2023. I know. I started very young. So
I would say possibly in your teens.
Well, kind of. We can get it. My first paid engagement was in 1972 when I was 12 years old. I'll tell you about that if you really want to know about it.
That's really
It wasn't
cool.
really a speaking engagement. It was a magic show at a birthday party, but I was paid to be in front of people. And by the way, 20 some odd screaming kids age 6 are far more difficult than most of the audiences that we ever encounter.
Wow. Well, look, among other people, you got Joe Turner hooked, as you probably know, on the magician part.
I know Joe. Joe's
Right?
my bud.
Cool. Very cool. Well, you've learned, Shep, let's just introduce you this way too, that you've learned in all of these 39 years where you just mentioned you only missed one, and that was due because of both airports being closed. But, you've learned this, a lot of it, I think you'd agree, through trial and error. You've learned what works for audiences and what doesn't work, and how speakers can be best prepared and what's ill-advised for speakers. And in all that time, you've used a lot of methods to get to the point where just this past weekend, you're running NSA winter conference, which, as we told you, we've had some members go, and we weren't fortunate enough to go, but overwhelmingly people are giving just amazing feedback. Today you're going to be talking to us about something that I think we all want more of, is get more bookings. And it's, a lot of it's about filling up the pipeline, but how you do it, I think you may agree with this. Now you said that it's been nearly 40 years. So let's just give a perspective that's since 1988. That's
83. I joined
83.
NSA in 88.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But you've been speaking since 83.
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, I stand corrected. And a really, a great career. June Klein said legendary, and I seriously would agree. Just having seen some of your recordings and talks, and you're really about being a customer service and experience expert. I like the way that you call yourself in your presentations a Chief Amazement Officer. Chief Amazement Officer. And amazing you are, because you've been like New York Times bestseller, Wall Street Journal bestseller. I mean, you've done a lot. I think you just said, maybe tongue in cheek, but probably close to it, you've done like 700 newsletters. I mean, you're a busy guy with tons of folks behind you that you've shared your message with, like American Airlines and AAA and Anheuser-Busch, Aetna. The list is so long.
You're going through the bio.
It would take a really long time, but I'm going to say this one thing about your personal life, because I think that would be good. Shep is happily married to Cindy and is a proud father of 3 amazing kids. When Shep is not spending time with his wife and kids, he enjoys playing ice hockey, golf, guitar. He plays with Carlos Santana and John Mayer on YouTube, and doing card tricks. And I'll bet you that he still knows how to do some pretty decent magic. So I want to welcome to our Atlanta group, Shep Hyken. Well, it's great to have you here,
Oh,
Shep.
thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, hey, I appreciate the introduction. And yeah, I do play with Carlos Santana, John Mayer, the Allman Brothers, all on YouTube. Every night I go home and I practice. This morning, I Played hockey, didn't score any goals, but I had 2 assists, which was nice for my team. We lost 6-4, but hey, can't win them all. Anyway, we're here today to talk about, and by the way, we're going till about what time today?
It's
6 or
about
7 tonight?
Yeah, it's a marathon.
Yeah.
Maybe to about 1:15-ish.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to be drinking a little bit from a fire hose. I'm going to talk pretty quickly. All you got to do to slow me down is just jump in and interrupt. So if you're on mute right now, take yourself off mute when you want to talk and dive in or raise your hand or do one of these, because I can see everybody on the screen. If you want to put it in the chat, you can. I've got the chat up. So if you see me looking around the screen as opposed to right into the camera, you'll know what I'm doing. I'm not being rude. I want to accommodate everybody. This is not a presentation. It is an explanation. And I'm just going to talk about what's on my mind right now as far as how I get business. I would like to go back, though, to the very, very beginning, not when I was 12 years old doing a birthday party, but in 1983, when I decided I'm going to be a professional speaker. And it was after seeing Tom Hopkins and Zig Ziglar do a motivational type rally here in St. Louis. And I thought, well, I could do that. I had this entertainment background. And by the way, birthday parties at age 12, over time, I graduated to doing adult birthday parties and private events for corporations. I even worked in nightclubs when I was a teenager and in college. When I got out of college, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I was working. I had a little job, short time, but like 4 or 5 months out of school, they said they're going to sell the company. And now what happens? So I saw these 2 guys speak. I said, I can do that. I go back to my entertainment background. But what I did to get business back then is no different than anybody could do today to get business, especially if they're just kind of starting out and building it a little bit. What I did is I created a list. I started out thinking, because of the Tom Hopkins book, I thought I'm going to get 100 leads or 100 prospects is a better word. But actually, I went and got 200. And the way I did it is I went up to the newsstand. I bought all the business magazines, pulled out all the full page ads, said if they're big enough to have a full page ad, they're big enough to have a meeting and hire a speaker. And then I went to the library and I found the names and phone numbers of the executives and the corporate headquarters. And I just started smiling and dialing. And I think that's the quickest, fastest way to get business. And I would say up until maybe even 10, 12 years ago, we were doing a lot of smile and dialing up until then. And then reputation and recognizing the positive impact of using social media or content marketing might even be a better word to describe it. That is what gets me business today. I went from being very pushy, if you will, to pulley, which, pushing to get business is calling, being more direct. Pulling is throwing content out there, doing things that would draw people to me. Makes sense so far? Good. I see some heads nodding. Great. So that's what I did back then. And actually, when we went through the recession in 2008 and 9, a lot of my friends were going, how are you getting so many speeches? I said, well, not everybody's decided not to have a meeting. You just got to get on the phone and call these people and figure out which ones are. And they go, you're using the phone? I go, yeah. And it wasn't always me on the phone. I have an assistant or had an assistant, still have an assistant. But it's having somebody else at a certain point in your career calling for you is probably a good idea, because if you're charging a pretty high fee, in some cases, some of you are, you probably shouldn't be the one who's doing the prospecting and the grunt work. You should be available for when the client wants to say, you know what, I think I would like to hire whomever. Let's have a conversation to see if this is the right speaker. So, but starting out, it was my goal was 100 calls a week. So 20 a day, 25 a day times 4. It was really interesting how when I started out, I was really starting to build my business, and it was a total numbers game. Back then, if I made 100 phone calls, I might only actually talk to maybe 12 to 15 people. And out of the 12 to 15 people, 18% of the people I talked to expressed some level of interest. And about 15% of those people would actually book me. So if you look at the numbers, it could take me 2-3 weeks before I finally got my first booking. But that's what happens. And I kept doing that. And the bookings just kept coming and coming. And then from the bookings that I was getting, I would get more bookings. And I do believe you try to avoid what I call dead end speeches. And I'll be happy to talk about, we have training and all that. But as far as the traditional speech, By the way, I want to shout out to my buddy, Mark Brown, who I haven't seen in a long time, but Mark managed the youth program when I was president of NSA. Hey, there he is. Hey, Mark, thank you so
Shep.
much.
No,
You
thank
were
you for
amazing.
asking. Thank
Yeah.
you so
So
much. Pleasure.
it's been a while since I've seen you, but
I
thank
know,
you.
yeah.
Anyway, I digress. So the whole idea is, I want to build up speeches, and from speeches, you should get more speeches. Trying to avoid the dead end speech means, and by the way, I will still take these speeches. A client calls me, oh yeah, we have an annual meeting where our entire company gets together. Every year we have a speaker. The likelihood of me coming back the very next year is pretty slow. And if it's the company that has me do all of their employees, it's not like there are other divisions or other areas that I can go to speak in. My first two clients, and by the way, when I went to the newsstand, there was also the local business magazine, and I pulled out ads. So my first two big clients, actually my first three clients, one was out of town. It was General Motors, small company out of Detroit. And then my other two companies were in St. Louis, Anheuser-Busch and Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And when you look at those clients, you recognize that drinking and driving, it could work together, okay? As long as you don't do them at the same time. Anyway, bad joke apparently, but it's true. Those were my first clients. And the way I did it is I just picked up the phone and called. Today, we're using content marketing. And I'll go over well, why don't we just get right into it? Let me give you my 7-day-a-week schedule, which sounds daunting, and it is for most, but, and I'll give you a little setup on it. I mentioned 2008-9 during the recession. I was busy because I was still on the phone making calls. 2009 or 2007, whatever it is in recession. 2009, I go to NSA in Orlando, winter workshop, and somebody's talking about this thing called Twitter. Huh, that's interesting. I don't understand what this whole Twitter thing is, but I'm intrigued. So I came home and I said to Cindy, hey, let's learn about Twitter. And she looks at life sometimes like a game, and Twitter to her was a game. How can we get more followers? And the way we did it was we would check out who would I want to follow, and that might be Mark Brown. And so I would go to Mark and I'd say, well, who's following Mark? Because you can tell that. And then we started reaching out and inviting those people to follow us. And it was very manual. And then, of course, as I started to post the right kind of content, it would get shared and people would then start following. And today we have about 115,000 followers, or maybe not 100. It goes up and down between 110, 115,000 followers on Twitter. And by the way, I realized not a lot of those people are active with me, but there's enough active. And what Twitter did for us as a favor, I had even more than that. One day they decided to get rid of all the bots. I don't know how they figured out who it was, but like I dropped 60,000 people in 1 week. How did that happen? And I realized what happened. And actually, as bummed as I was that I couldn't claim I had bigger numbers, I had good numbers because they were good people who were actually on Twitter, using Twitter, and many of them do interact. So when we talk to clients who are interested in using me as an influencer in their world, which means they pay me to actually tweet for them, I tell them, yeah, we've got to reach about 100,000 plus people, realizing that only 1 to 2% are probably actually going to see the tweet, and a very few of them actually will interact. But that'll give you an idea. When you're on Twitter, about 1 to 2% of your people actually see whatever it is you tweet, which means whatever you tweet this morning, you can tweet a few hours from now, maybe change up the words a little bit differently, but it's pretty much the same thing. And you'll hit a completely different audience. So that was my entry into social media. I started doing a newsletter back when there was no internet. There was no, I remember my first email address was CompuServe, or something like a number at CompuServe.com. And then I had AOL. And in 1988, when websites started to become popular, I actually bought my website when I was at, maybe it was 88, 89, might have been 89, at a conference in one of the NSA conferences. Oh, this is a good idea. I'm going to get my domain, Hyken.com. And from that point on, I guess it was off to the races. Was it about, when I say 88, I might be off by a few years, but anyway, doesn't matter. I learned very quickly that the newsletter, while I mailed it out, I could start emailing it out. And I only had maybe 500-600 people that I mailed it to. So it wasn't a big deal to go to a quarterly newsletter to mail. But when I started the email, I could send it out once a month. Didn't cost anything extra. And I realized this is a great way of getting my name in front of people on a regular basis. Well, today we do 52 every week we do a newsletter. But the newsletter to me is perhaps the most important marketing tool that I have, not because it actually gets me business, but it allows me to take the content and chunk it up into pieces or use it in different ways that allows me to expand my social reach in multiple ways in doing so. So, and by the way, any questions so far? Any thoughts, questions? Anybody have any answers? Good. So social media, newsletter. My newsletter, I don't know where I read it, but I try to always make it about 400 words at a certain point in time, my newsletter, because anything less than that was not recognized as a blog or a newsletter, but just simply a post of some kind. Don't know why that made a difference, but always in my mind, it's like all of my newsletters are at least 400 words long. I try to cap it at around 550 or 600 at the most, because that's going to take people from a 3 to 4 minute read to a 5 or 6 minute read. All the numbers and research that we look at say that's starting to get long. Now, that's not long if it's on a website and people are coming to it to read about you. So a true blog, it's not long. But for a newsletter, it might be too long. Makes sense. And by the way, the longer your blogs are, if you keep people on your blog, Google recognizes. They are tracking the human eyes of your, looking at your blogs, knowing, oh, this person's scrolling and they're staying on the site for 4 or 5 minutes. This must be important. And if it's properly loaded up with keywords that are tied to what you talk about and what you do, then, I think it's a great SEO play.
Yeah.
Question.
And
yes,
Shep, really quick clarification. What you're talking about and specifying, this is all a part of your polling approach. Is that right?
No, this is, so to me, my articles are written to be posted on as a blog, and I use the same article as a newsletter. Let me, and I'll do this. I don't want to get too crazy here. I'm going to show you my newsletter from today. Let me open up the screen over here, and I will share my screen just to do that.
A real quick question, Shep, too. I have a podcast, and if I have the show notes posted on the podcast page, does that
Yep.
do the same thing as Google searching for that?
Sure. I'll show you what I'm doing. We'll talk about podcasts too. So this is my newsletter. It's the Shepherd letter. You can see it's in my inbox. It just at 10 o'clock my time, 11 o'clock your time. So 24 minutes ago, it came out. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can actually see it. Can everybody see it? Did I share the right screen? Good. So here we are. And you can see it's got a cartoon. I've been doing cartoons now. I think I've got about 380 of them. So for the last 380 weeks, I've been doing a cartoon, and I read the newsletter, and then, check this out. Here's a video. Are you listening? Okay. And this is, when a consulting session was shot. Actually, this is last week's article, but this is what my newsletter looks like. You can see there's links in here, great customer focused companies. Now that is a key phrase that is semi-searched. And if you click on that, it's going to take you to somewhere on my website. But let me go to my website for a moment and it'll pop up. Oh, I must have closed a window. Here it is. It says restore. I'll restore. And let me go to my website. Oh, I know. I was having trouble yesterday with Chrome. So hyken.com is my website, and slowly but surely it comes up. And if we go over to customer service blog, and this is going to answer the question about, here's my news article. Today's was never, never, never be late. And you continue reading. Here is my podcast. Okay. And you can see that I post my podcast with my blog. So up here, it says customer service blog. And I've got my news article, my blog. I write an article called Top 5 Articles of the Week. I do this every week. I'll tell you about that in a moment. I have a guest post every week from an expert in the customer service experience world. And now you can see it just repeats itself. Newsletter, blog, Top 5 guest post, newsletter, I'm sorry, newsletter, not blog, newsletter podcast, or blog podcast, top 5 article, guest post. See it? There it is. Another blog or a newsletter, the podcast. So I just do that over and over again. It just, that's what I post on my blog site. So I consider the show notes a blog post. And then of course the show notes, here's the interesting thing. Since I don't actually do the posting, I just do all the creating and I don't get involved. If you go to Apple, iTunes, or whatever it is, I don't think you're going to see my show notes under there, but you will see my podcast on all of those podcast networks. So who asked that question? Was that Judy? Yeah, I thought that was you. Did I answer the question?
Yes, you did. Is it a penalty to have? I mean, I'm curious why you don't have your show notes on Apple and some of the other platforms.
Maybe I do. I don't know. I don't go and this is terrible. I don't, after I record it, I listen to it sometimes because I actually write an entire article about it. But what I do is when I do my podcast, when somebody says something brilliant, I'll go, oh, that's just great. Boom. Okay. That is the signal for whoever is editing my blog or my podcast to know that is the point that goes in the show notes. Because I try to get 5 or 6 of those points in there. Make sense?
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. So my show notes are 5 or 6 keepers and a few quotes that came from the podcast. The questions, this podcast will answer the following questions. And there's maybe 3 to 5 questions. And those questions, we go to Google and type in questions that tie into words that are used to see exactly how people are asking the question. Because if we put that in the show notes, that's going to be SEO optimized for that question. And if I'm going too fast or I'm saying something that doesn't make sense, please let me know.
Well, I've got one other question on your website there. Is that all on one page? Like that you're doing all of that on one, do you use,
show you.
I have a WordPress, but then like there's the blog, like you can do blog, and
Sure.
I didn't know if.
So I just clicked on the podcast and here it is. You can see you can play it from right here. And then top takeaways, here they are. They're just a few bullet points. Okay.
Please share, Shep, please share.
Did I not share it? Oh, I apologize. I didn't hit that other button.
Thank you.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. So here, let me go back and just show you from, here we are on the actual, blog site. Okay. Customer service blog.
I think I see that on your URL, it looks like it is on a blog.
It says blog, hyken.com/blog.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then here, let's just click on featuring Chris Wallace. Continue reading. There it is. And when you continue reading, it takes you to the next page that it's linked to. And here is the guy's picture. You can listen to it. There's the different places it appears, top takeaways, bullet points, quotes from the article. And we use these quotes in our Twitter and anywhere else that we would want to post a quote. And here's the about, and then underneath, what is a brand promise? I just want to show you something. I'm going to take that. What is a brand promise? Okay. That's a pretty good question. I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to type in what is a brand promise? And apparently 631 million people a month type that in. Okay. Not many of them are going to find their way to my website, but that's a pretty good indicator that that's a good question. Makes sense? By the way, did you notice, never mind. Who are your internal questions? There are certain, I love it when I see it in the billions, not the millions, because once in a while we write a great question. And there you go. And I'm seeing mistakes here. I'm going to go fix these later on. We're going to talk to my web guy. There's some mistakes there. Thanks for pointing that out to me. All right, let's stop the share and get back to you guys. Does that make sense, Judy? Okay, does that help everybody? Good. I'm going to hold nothing back. So any questions? All right, so let me go through my schedule and then you'll see what I do. I've been very lucky, and I have a weekly Forbes column that I'm actually paid to write. And they actually gave me a raise about 2 weeks ago, which I'm very excited about. But I've been writing for them since 2015. I write a weekly column. The guy that hired me said, "You miss 1 week, you're fired." Got it? Got it. Okay, I've never missed a week. And so I've been doing that. That's Sunday. On Monday, I release an article called My Top 5 Articles That I Read the Week Before. This is the easiest blog in the world to write. And I'll tell you why it's very, very effective, because you'll build relationships with potential clients and other authors and speakers. So what I do is I do Google alerts on key phrases: customer service, customer experience, internal service. There's a number of phrases that we use, and we Google alert news related to those keywords. I also have something set up. It's called paper.ly, paper.li. Here, I'll put it in the chat so everybody can see this in case. paper.li. Oops, L-I. There it is. So this paper.ly, I'm going to raise this just a bit. There we go. Paper.ly is like you get these emails from people that have like 5 or 6 different, I don't know, the word I'm looking for, it consolidates content, it curates content from different sources. And the way those work, and I use paper.ly, and there's a free version and a paid version. The only difference between the free and the paid is that you can put ads of your own in the paid version. And I think it takes out the branding. But if you want to use it for just your own personal use, just use the free version. So what I've done is I've created the customer service daily. And I put in 50 people or publications that I follow. And I put in the keywords that if any of these people either write it, recommend it, post about it, if it's an article in a publication like Harvard Business Review or any of the other magazines, Retail World or whatever, I'll see it. It'll pop up in a curated format where I can see the titles, maybe a paragraph, click on it, and it opens up to the actual article. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. Number one, I want to write this blog post, and I use Google alerts, and I look at these daily feeds, and I choose the articles I want to read. I read 10 to 15 articles a day. I do that because I stay on top of what my game is. That's the primary reason I like reading these. But then I earmark my favorites. And at the end of the week, I've got 5, 7, 10 favorites. I choose the favorite 5, and I write 2 or 3 sentences. Love this article because it talks about culture and the internal customer. If you don't take care of your employees first, there's no way they're going to take care of the customer. And then it says read more, and it clicks on it, takes you to the author's article. Does that make sense? Now, what's really cool is I do 5 of those every week, and I have made friends with authors. I have, because when the article comes out and we post it on our blog, we then we do a post, and we tag all of the authors and the publications or the companies that we mention in this article. They see it. They see, what's he talking about? They go to it, they look at it, they thank me, we start talking. By the way, if there is a company that has posted an article or a blog and I want to work for them, we do a little bit of extra work to try to make them notice that I've mentioned them, which is really, really important. Same thing with our Forbes articles. When I write my Forbes article, if I mention different companies or executives in those companies and I link to those companies, we'll make sure that when we tweet about it, we connect with them, or we mention them, and then they will see it because they have PR teams and communications teams in their companies that are looking for when their names are being used, and it starts to help build that relationship. Great. So now we've got Sunday Forbes, Monday top 5 articles. Tuesday is my podcast day, and I do a podcast for 3 reasons. Number 3, let's go with the least important reason, and that is for exposure. I was working for CBS Radio, and I had, when they started to do blog or podcasts, I started with a weekly 1-hour show, and it showed up everywhere. They even take excerpts and put it on late night regular radio in the middle of the night when they were looking for content to fill. It showed up on, airlines when CBS had their radio stations. It would show up there, and it was great. And it was a wide type of show. I interviewed everybody from customer service experts, like what I do, to authors who wrote books on how to invest in the market. I even interviewed musicians. It was a business show. And then I realized at the end of a year, nothing is getting me. It's like too wide of a lane. It's not in my space. I'm getting nothing from it. And I said, I want to do a show just on customer service and experience. And they said, it's way too limiting. And as a result, I went from lots of people listening to now about maybe 800 to 1,000 a week, if I'm even lucky, if it's a good episode. But at the end of the year, I have 40 to 50,000 people that watch it, but every one of them is interested in what I talk about and what I do. So I do that on Tuesday. And if I like what I'm listening to in the interview, sometimes I'll use that to fuel the article for a Forbes article or my blog, which I do my blog on Wednesdays. And then and the blog is also a newsletter that goes out to about maybe 12 to 15,000 now. We try to, every once in a while, we'll go in. We were at like 20 some odd thousand, and we just lopped 5,000 or 6,000 right off because they weren't engaging with us for years. And I only want people that we know are opening. And we're currently using Infusionsoft, but we just signed with SpeakerFlow, which is on the Zoho platform. That's what we're using for our CRM and for newsletter distribution. We're just going to start using them, but you can track your open rates. And if we can see nobody's opened my newsletter in 6 months, they're getting off the list. Okay. Because that means I sent something for 26 weeks and they didn't acknowledge it. All right. So that's Wednesday's newsletter. And we also, by the way, allow people to post that newsletter into their publications. And on Wednesday afternoons, I probably have them in my inbox now. There'll be 3 or 4 publications said, thank you, we posted your article on whatever. And that's weekly. We also post it on Medium, which is something anybody can do. Thursday is video day. And what I do is I take my blog or my newsletter, and when I write it like I'm talking. And then I hand it to Cindy, who actually, we pay a lady. She charges me $10 to edit my articles per article. And she turns my written words that are on paper into better read words because it doesn't quite seem the same. I can tell when we do my post on Thursday, which is the video, we drop my article into the teleprompter and I read it because it's just exactly what I would say. If Cindy once in a while will accidentally put the finished article into the teleprompter, and I go, I would never say it like that. What happened here? So it is quite a difference between what you say and how it sounds and what you read and how it sounds in your head. So I just throw that out there. But Thursdays, all we're doing is we're taking whatever, and I don't do it the very next day. So it's maybe an article that was from 2 or 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And what I'll do is I'll go into the studio, which is on the other side of my wall here, and I will bang out maybe 4 or 5 weeks worth of videos. They're all about 3 or 4 minutes long. It takes me about 30 minutes maybe to do a month's worth of video. And then I have somebody that does the editing and all of that. Fridays, kind of a day of rest, and that we're looking for somebody to guest post related to customer service and experience. So we can have friends. If by the way, if you have a new book coming out and you want to write a short article about the book, we'll put it on there. We'll promote you. We're happy to do that. But what I'm really looking for are potential clients that would like to have a post on our site. And I want to kind of help build that relationship. Saturdays. Oh, I do all kinds of things on Saturdays. And so I created a series of 52 1-minute videos to put on Instagram. And I ran those for a year. We just finished those up. We started doing a LinkedIn newsletter, which takes my Forbes article, puts it in to the LinkedIn newsletter format. That's what's running on Saturdays. So basically what I'm telling you is that 7 days a week, I'm creating a major piece of content. Now, around that, we have LinkedIn posts, we have Twitters, we have little Instagrams when I see something, whatever. Oh, I also do a Monday post on Pinterest. And what I do is I read an awful lot of books. People send me their books. And if I like the book, I will simply put a visual post here's what I'm reading. Every week we put a book of the week up there and it links to the Amazon page of the author. So there's another way. We get almost 900,000 to 1 million people who view that Pinterest on an annual basis. So by the way, I got a really cool stat the other day. Since 19, 20, 21, 3 years, my Forbes articles, 2.2 million people have read them. That's a pretty cool stat. Randy Gage was our closing speaker at the winter workshop. And he made a comment that like, oh my God, that blows my mind. He said, every single minute of every hour of every day, okay, every minute, somebody is reading his content. Now think about that. That's huge. And then I started thinking, I wonder what my numbers are. So if you do the math, there's 60 minutes in an hour times 24 times 365. It's like 26,000 minutes. Hold on a minute. 26,000 minutes. I have like almost 1 million people a year that look at my content. I'm more than one a minute. I'm like every single second. You guys should figure this out because it's a great benchmark. And you would then say, oh my gosh, I'm getting, widespread. My goal used to be, I would love it if once a day on a Google alert on my name, I see that somebody shared something of mine, tweeted something of mine, quoted something of mine, and we bump that number up because we want it multiple times a day. That's how we know we're making impact. So there's my 7-day-a-week schedule. Any questions about this at all?
I have one question.
Yes, Candace.
If I'm trying to eliminate things that slow me down,
Mm-hmm.
and anyway, I'm in my head about that, but I like your guest posting. My question is, how do you select the guest to post? What's your process for getting guests?
Very easy. I mean, you can go and scour. So if you want to, by the way, I should tell you, this sounds like a really daunting amount of work, doesn't it? Okay. It is. You need to start with one thing first. Okay. And Candace, if you want to start with, I'm going to just get a guest post on there. And by the way, if you'll notice my guest post, I always say, I'm going to give you a very general version of this. I like this article because fill in the blank, 2 or 3 sentences. Here's whoever. Okay. And that's how the article's always set up. So, by the way, we have no problem getting people to guest post because people know I do it. Companies know I do it. We're getting inundated every day. I get 25 to 30 pitches from PR companies. A lot of it comes from that they know I write for Forbes and they see that I am showing up in all these different places and they want me to write about them. But I digress. To your point, what I would do is I would go and look for some favorite articles and then I would ask, hey, can I have permission to put this on my site? And I'll link it back to you. And I want to do a short little paragraph to set it up. Here it is. Would that be okay? Nobody's going to say no, especially if at the end in their bio, if it's a speaker and author, you link back to them, and they've written the book blank and it connects to their Amazon page. They're going to love you for this. And it really is effective if you choose to do it as a company thing and you start to look at corporate blogs and newsletters and you ask permission to do it. And now you're starting to build relationships. Oh, I was going to the podcast. I never finish my thought. Sometimes I go off on things. 3 reasons I do the podcast. The third least important reason is exposure. The second most important reason is it's something to promote. So I can tweet, I can Facebook, I can Instagram, I can LinkedIn, I can promote it in many different ways. And then the number one reason I do it is I get to hang out for a half an hour with somebody I want to hang out with and pick their brain. The last month, I don't know if anybody, raise your hand if you're in the customer service world at all. You might know of this concept called the Net Promoter Score, NPS. Are you familiar with this at all? It's one of the most important metrics that companies use. I interviewed the guy that came up with NPS, the Net Promoter Score. How freaking cool is that? Okay. And yeah, there you go. Thank you. And from Forrest, I've interviewed Horst Schulze, who's from Atlanta at the Ritz-Carlton, talking about customer service. And he and I became somewhat friends on the number of interviews I've had. I had recently interviewed Klaus Forn, who you don't know, but he is a professor at the business school at University of Michigan, and he came up with a concept of CSAT, customer satisfaction scores. He came up with this, and he does the research. And every year, University of Michigan puts out this incredible report. And if you choose the top 30 companies to invest in, you outperform the stock market by like 600%. I mean, this guy is, he's like the deal, the real deal. I don't want to call him a god. That's not realistic, but he's like my idol. Okay. One of them when it comes to this. I get to interview these people. It's amazing. And they appreciate that I do it. And we become friendly, and we're able to maybe do things down the road together. But those are the main reasons. I've also learned to monetize some of this. For example, the podcast, I have a podcast package. I will put your company on my podcast. I will write an article about you. I can't promise you it's going to go in Forbes, but I'll write an article. I'll put it on LinkedIn or whatever. And I charge for that. It's an influence. And we'll tweet about it X number of times. And when you engage with me, when you tag me, I will tweet back. Okay. And we have a whole package. I actually, let's see if I can find it here. My very, very messy desk. I created a PDF, which is my, I call it my influencer package. We actually have a 3-month tweeting package where I will tweet about your company 3 times a week for 3 months. And I charge a fee for that. By the way, I really started pushing this stuff during COVID because you couldn't get on stage. So I found like multiple ways to make money. Here's something that many of you may not know is another way to make money. And I know I'm jumping off my 7-day-a-week schedule, but nobody had any questions. I rent space. Like you can get your name on the header of my blog, where you take them to the blog. You can get your name on the header of my YouTube channel. But here's the cool thing about the YouTube channel. On the far right-hand corner, and I'm going to actually share this. I don't think I have anybody sponsoring the channel right now. Let me pull it up. I'm going to show you because this is something that if you don't know about it, you should use it for yourselves. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Oh, let me stop the music. Okay, share screen. Click this one. There we go. All right, can everybody see my YouTube page? Great. You see the banner up here? Yes. See this over here, the right hand where it has a copy of my book, I'll Be Back. This is a clickable link right here on your YouTube banner. A lot of people don't know about this link. When you click on it, it takes you, in this case, it's going to take you to information about my book. Okay. So I don't want to go to that, but let's go back to here. You can actually tell a client they can have that 20% of your banner with a link to whatever they want for X amount of dollars. And that way they can sponsor your YouTube channel. And we've had pretty good luck with that. So anyway, let me stop sharing. Any questions about that?
Yes, this is Jeannie. How do you vet the people? So there's a lot of people that may want to do that, but you may not want them on your banner. How do
Say
you
no.
vet? Okay.
Just
But
say no.
What makes it the type of person you would want up there? Like what kind of things?
So in my
right for you?
world, I'll tell you the people that there have been a number of people that have rented for just 2 or 3 months, but like one we had for a long time was Salesforce, Wix, not the Wix. Now Wix website is the same company, but they have something called Wix Answers, which is their call center customer support solution. They rent that space and it'll say something like, please check out our latest report, click here, or, come to our virtual event, click here, and it takes them and they will track how many people come from this source. Now, I know not a lot of people come from the source. I'm very upfront. I can tell you that we get 4,000 to 5,000 people a month viewing a week viewing my channel on YouTube. Okay. So we get, almost 20,000 a month, about 250,000 a year. But how many of them would actually click on that? If you were there for the whole year, you might be lucky to get 1,000 clicks. Okay. But like Salesforce said, the first month they signed on for more. Why? Well, we didn't get that many clicks, but one of them turned into a customer and that customer pays for this for the next 40 years. Okay. But we're only going to sign up for 6 months. But you get an idea. So you can go to your clients and create, hey, I'm available for sponsorships. If you would like to sponsor my blog, sponsor my podcast, sponsor my YouTube channel, you can do that. So by the way, all of these are driving credibility, which drives getting more business. Getting more business is not just a speech on a stage. It could be a virtual presentation, a webinar, it could be training, or it could lead to other money-making activities. We do special video projects where we'll create a video a month for a client to show their employees, and then we'll give them a little worksheet, kind of like the questions that you want to ask afterwards, so that different department heads can have a great discussion, a facilitated discussion around the content. So, you know, gone, I believe, are the days when all you do is get on stage and speak and do nothing else. Is anybody, and by the way, I'm not going to criticize that model, but does anybody, raise your hand if that is your current model, that the only thing you do is speak on a stage? Okay, nobody's raising their hands, because if that was the case for the last 2+ years, you haven't made a dime. Okay, now maybe you sell books, ancillary income. Maybe you do speeches, training, consulting. You know, when 9/11 hit, that's when I decided to move from just the speaking business to include training, because I realized we're one terrorist attack away from the annihilation of our business as we know it. Because if somebody shot down another airplane or crashed another airplane, there was no way that my clients would put all their salespeople in airplanes to go to fancy resorts that could potentially be targets of terrorists. So I said, I'm going to create a program where I take it to where they are, their headquarters, their offices, hence training. And I hired a course designer to take my speech and my books and create courses from it. So I can do a half day, a full day, multiple days. I quickly learned after my first full day gig, which, by the way, trainers typically don't make more than speakers, but speakers that are willing to do full days make more than 1 hour speeches. So I was charging an unreasonable amount, in my opinion, for a full day, because I thought, wow, if I had a trainer do this, I could probably charge less. The client would buy it more, but I would book more of them. So that's what I did when I realized I didn't love training. I then I created this facilitator guide where anybody who was a trainer or had done any type of training could pick it up, read it, and go deliver the training. It was a very, very smart move. And today, a big part of our business comes from training, where other people are doing the training of my content. That happened as a result, just like COVID did for some. It forced people to think outside of, what do I normally do that I could maybe make money on if it's something close to it. We went from doing speeches on stage to Zoom speeches. And I had always said, I've done 10 or 15 virtual events in the form of webinars every single year. I've been doing that for many years. I just didn't think I'd be doing 15 a month, but that's what it turned out to be. So good, good. Anything else? Any ideas, thoughts? All right. So let's get back to really what the crux of this is. How do we get more business from all of this? I believe that when you're out there enough in many different modalities and mediums, you will be able to connect with far more people. Remember, I started to talk to you about, this sounds daunting. If you're going to make 20 calls a day, how long do you think that would take? 3 hours? Probably at least 3 hours, maybe 4 hours. If you actually got somebody on the phone, you might talk to them that they wanted to talk for 30 or 40 minutes. But in the meantime, you're calling, you're looking at notes, you're making sure that if you do get them on phone, you want to be totally prepared with what you're going to talk to them about. So you have to know a little bit more about that company and who you're talking to. So it's not like I'm just going down a list of names and numbers. I do a tiny bit of research right before I jump on. The questions I want to ask when I do have somebody on the phone, and by the way, if somebody calls me, I'm going to ask the same questions. I want to hear a little bit about your event. But if I'm calling outbound and I can get somebody on the phone, or I have an appointment, and by the way, today, rather than cold calling, LinkedIn is the new way of connecting and building a relationship to a point where somebody would want to talk to you. And in that LinkedIn interaction, I might actually ask, do you ever use outside professional speakers? And if so, sure we do, if so, what would it take for you to consider me? Can we jump on the phone and talk about that? And that kind of just sets it up. But I want to know, do they hire outside speakers? It's different than saying, do you hire a speaker? Do you have a speaker at your meeting? Because yeah, we have a customer come in and talk to us. We have a political figure. We have sports people, local sports figures. I will never compete with any of those. Two reasons. It's not that I wouldn't be better, but they know what they want, and what they want is not what I do. So I now have to convince them to do what it is that I do, to hire what it is that I do. But then I also have to convince them to hire me on top of that. So that's like a two-step process. I want a one-step process. Do you hire speakers? Yes, we do. Can you tell me who you've had in the past? Sure. Well, we've had June Klein, we've had Mark Brown, we've had, Angela Boonemer, we've had all these people. I go, okay, I know some of those people. And if I'm really good at what I do and I know my industry, I know how much they charge too, because I've been around a while. So when they tell me they've had Scott McCain, Tony Alessandra, Don Hudson, all my friends, Jay Bear, okay, I know that they now have a budget. I don't even have to ask them about the budget because I know they have one. All right. So I'm going to ask who you've used. And I'm going to ask when your next meeting is. What do I need to not necessarily in these orders. What do I need to do to be considered? Who else is involved in the decision process? What do I, so I'm going to find all this information out. We have a list of questions. By the way, if you want the best resource for that, go to Lois Kramer, who I know has been to your chapter many times. And she has like all the list of every question that you would ever want to ask. Would it make sense? That's her line. Would it make sense to? All right. So anyway, ask the questions. We realize there's a fit. And then that's where the process starts. Today, people are calling in and we're asking them questions. We always want to know, well, how many people are going to be in the audience? Tell me about the audience. I want to make sure there's a good fit. And if they tell me there's going to be 20 people in the audience, I know I'm not the right guy. But we also know that one of my trainers can step in and do an amazing job for a small percentage of what I would normally charge to do a keynote speech. So that works there. So the outbound method, same conversation I'm going to have pretty much if it's inbound. Now, let me share with you some real important conversation topics. If I have a prospect that is willing to give me the time on this call, what I'm going to do, before I get to that prospect, I want to go back. I told you it takes 3 hours a day to do this kind of outbound activity. If I swap those 3 hours for writing content, that means I would spend, I don't write 15 hours a week of content. I probably do, maybe 20% of my time is written creating content, but I don't make the outbound calls anymore. I create the content and I put it out there, and that's what's bringing in the business. So I've just swapped, time and leveraging that time as opposed to going direct. But I will tell you, going direct, you will get business faster than going the content marketing and social media route. But at a certain point in time, when your business is built up, it makes sense to use social media and content marketing to keep the fire going, to keep the engine going. Makes sense. All right. Now, back to, I was talking about what I say before I said I'm going to come back to this. Who's paying attention? Talking about prospects. My conversation. I learned, I went to Dan Sullivan, the strategic coach. I don't know if anybody is familiar with Dan. It's a program. If you go to strategiccoach.com, you can learn about it. I went for 20 years. And early on, one of the things he talks about is the DOS conversation. DOS stands for dangers, opportunities, and strengths. It's his version of like a SWOT analysis, that kind of thing. But what it is the questions that I ask. So one of the reasons, here's how my go is, and you can, by the way, I speak from experience so that you can take it and apply it to your own experiences. So I know they're calling me about customer service. So I will ask them, what is it about the topic of customer service or experience that makes you want to have a speaker for that topic? Because I'm going to hear, oh man, we need some help in that area. Now I know there's a danger that they're worried about. And we do a great job, but you know what? Our competitors are doing a pretty good job too. We just need to stay a step ahead. All right. And you're looking back behind you all the time, worried about your competition. So I know what their dangers are. So if we were to do this and we were to have me speak, why is this topic? What would happen? What do you, like, oh, well, our skills wouldn't. So now we know what the opportunities are. They would tell me. All right. And then I like to ask them what they're really good at right now, where they feel they excel in this customer service, customer experience area, because I want to know where they feel they are. So now I know what their strengths are. Does all that make sense? But now I'm about to share with you the most important question, which is the fourth question, the magic question. The magic question is, and this is straight from Dan Sullivan, but I modified it just a bit. If we were to get together, and you can put the time frame, it's always at least a year. Sometimes it's longer than that. We're working with clients that are interested in 2 and 3 year programs. And I will say, if we get together 3 years from now, what would have to have happened for you to feel that this was an incredible investment? Okay. That's my modification. What would have to happen for you to feel that having me as a speaker was a success? If we were to get together a year from now, looking back to the event that you're interested in booking me on, what would have to happen in that year for you to feel like, wow, it was worth hiring Shep? And I turn that phrase and modify it a little differently based on the situation, but it always starts out. If we were to get together a year, 2 years, whatever the time frame is, what would have to happen for you to fill in the blank? Why am I doing that? Number one, most important, they are now truly defining what success criteria looks like to them. Number two, they put me in their vision a year from now. That's a real important subliminal piece of that question. All right. Now, once I get information from this conversation, I am typing notes furiously. I get off the phone or get off the Zoom call and I type up my notes in bullet point form using the exact words that they use to describe what their problems were, where their opportunities lie, where their strengths are, that kind of thing, as well as that success criteria. And I shoot it back to them, ideally within an hour or two, worst case, the same day. And I'll make sure that it has to go out so that they have it when it's there the next morning at the latest. Sometimes I'll send that and I also say, hey, I'm also going to summarize this in a video, and I use Bomb Video, and I send out a Bomb video with me doing it, on a video format, which basically I'm just putting my notes in front of me. And so, and just talking about it into the camera. Clients love this, and it truly does separate me from the competition. So I know we've got about 10, 12 minutes left. I threw a lot at you in the last hour or so. Any questions? I've got other topics.
Everything is so good. I mean, the good news is we're recording it for our members so that we can go back, because your 7-day, not that we have to do exactly like you, but it just was so helpful for you because the 7-day strategy, how to reuse content. But also, I just want to say I love the, sending the follow-up, because I like to use their words as well, but that, adding that video on. Thanks for that.
Well, thanks. By the way, back to the content, I use my article, which is a catalyst for the video, which also is a catalyst for lots of tweets and posts. You can create a meme from a line in the article, so you can get tons of content out of one short article. And I think formally, I write at least 2 articles a week, and that is my Forbes column and this, but I repurpose those. And then of course, the top 5 article, I mean, it takes me 20 minutes to do the top 5 article. That's not much at all. So very good. All right. Yes, Candace.
It's so when you do your 5 videos or however many videos you do at one time, you batch them. Do you change the appearance of yourself or your environment or anything to make people think it's different?
Let's see if I can look at this, if they come up. Oh, well, I was going to see if there's pictures. No, I'm pretty much wearing the same thing most of the time. I have 2 sport jackets and 2 shirts, and I put it on. I don't change them. And you know what? Nobody cares. Nobody's ever said anything about it in all the years that I've been doing this. By the way, I just for fun, I'm going to see if I could figure out how to do this. It says my channel. I should be signed in. Oh, don't mean to do that. Hold on. You could probably hear that. Manage videos. And I'm just going to tell you, we have a lot of videos. I think there's almost 900 videos, but I'm going to bet 700 of them are, there's a lot. I don't want to waste time looking for it. But the reason I said I've been doing it so long, everything I've shared with you, I have not come up with on my own. It's people like Ford Sakes telling me, hey, if you want to own your market, you need to do video. Try to do a video at least once a week, even if it's a short video. And you'll start to see incredible results. Search engine, you got to do it right. Don't get me wrong. There's technique, but you got to learn the proper way to do it. And my video, I have somebody, I have 2 virtual assistants in the Philippines. One of them does nothing but graphics and video, and that's their job. And we send them videos every week. They do the podcast editing and that type of thing. And it's very inexpensive to get that done. You don't have to have a full-time person. You could have a part-time person. But if you're going to do it on a regular basis, get consistency with who you're doing it with. So did that answer your question, Candace? I don't know if I did or I didn't.
No, it did answer the question.
Good.
And the other question I was just going to ask, you have different people that post things for you. So do you do your content, you do it every day, or do you do any batching other than?
Oh, I batch content. Like right now, I'm 3 or 4 weeks ahead on all my articles. Okay. And if I get in the mood and I have a few hours in the afternoon, like this afternoon is article day, I'm going to write a couple of articles, maybe 3 articles, in a couple hours. And so whenever I have an app on my phone, and there's probably other apps like this, and you guys are going to say, oh, it's the same thing as your memo app. No, it's not. It's called Brain Toss, BrainToss. This is what it looks like. Okay. Brain Toss. I think it's like $10 or $8, some low number, not a month, but one time. And all I do is, oh, that's an idea. And you can see the little microphone. I hit the voice, I say it, I hit it again, and I don't do anything else. It automatically sends it to my email box. And there's my idea. I just came up with it. I don't have to go back into the app to pull it out. It gets sent to my email. And so if I have an idea, I'm listening to a speaker the other day at the winter conference, and I just pulled it out and it's real soft, did it, and it showed up. And so it's an idea. I'm always looking for ideas. When I get that going all the way back to paper.ly, L-I, if I'm struggling for content, rather than read articles, I read titles of all the articles. And that may be the creativity I need to spark. Oh yeah, I can talk. I can knock 300-400 words out easy. Okay. By the way, if I get to 300 or 350, oh man, what do I need? I just need to put an example in there. And I just think of an example to throw in there. So good. All right. I, by the way, I'm happy to stick around for a longer amount of time. I don't mind doing it. Any questions about, some really cool things about LinkedIn? And I don't want to steal anything from Richard Bliss, who is our LinkedIn expert that we had. And I'm going to share with you a little upcoming kind of a cool thing. Richard has agreed to do an NSA webinar for us. And he's agreed, as I mentioned, to share his information. But I learned a lot. LinkedIn, I was trying to post once or twice a day on LinkedIn. We now don't even post every day because less is more. Hello, Cindy. Cindy's here. Hi. So less is more. And what I learned is LinkedIn, if you post something, there's a 4-hour window where if you post again, it won't get acknowledged by, they have, I can't remember what it is, but if you post now and 10 minutes later, post again, a completely separate post, the LinkedIn will say, okay, we're only going to give this to like 1% of your entire group. They control it. You have to wait at least 4 hours. Realize once you post something in 5 hours, it's going to kill whatever you were posting 5 hours before. So you've got to let it realize if you got a post that's generating great activity, don't post again until it starts to slow down. Those were really, really revealing to me because I would post my top 5 articles on LinkedIn, and that doesn't get hardly any interaction and hardly any views at all, but it was killing my promotion of the Forbes article from the day before because LinkedIn now substitutes what I'm posting now for something. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. So little tips like that, they're not life-changing, but they're game-changing if you add enough of those little tips in. So cool.
Shep, how did you feel that your 52 1-minute project went? The 52 1-minute videos that you did for Instagram. Did you feel like that was worth the effort? Or
Yeah, so here's what I did. First of all, all the articles are there, and this is the advantage of having somebody who works with you. I don't need to rewrite 52 tips. I'll say, hey, there is, I want you to go find 52 topics within my articles that I could create tips on. They did the research. I wrote one paragraph on each of the tips. Probably took me, I know it didn't take me a full day because I just knocked them all out in less than 1 day. Okay. That was the writing. The writing took much longer than the videos. And by the way, I did not do all 52 of them at once because I think I would have pulled my hair out. I did pull my hair out. But what I did is about 10 or 12 of them all at once, and literally 15 minutes. I told the camera, just keep going. I'm not going to stop in between. So the teleprompter had 12 tips in it, and I would just roll them. Then I'd stop, take a break for just like 15, 20 seconds. Okay, here we go with the next one. If I made a mistake, I went back and started over because they're all less than a minute long, right? So I would knock out a dozen of those in 15 minutes. And, you know, within a few days, I had all 52 of them. And then my job is to create the content. It is not to post the content. And I like to interact on the content. If you write an email to me, or not an email, if you write a comment underneath my LinkedIn article and you see a comment more than a thank you or a like, that is me commenting. And the way I get this, because I've got Twitter, I've got Facebook, I've got LinkedIn, I've got my articles, you know, where there's commentary underneath. There's a lot of places for me to look. I don't look at it. I have my assistant go in and consolidate all of the comments that I need to write about. Here's all your LinkedIn comments. Here's all your Facebook comments. And I will go through one at a time, knock them all out. And I get 2 of those a day, usually one in the middle of the day, one toward the end of the day. And I just knock those out, send them back, and then they put them back into the appropriate channels. Makes sense, because I don't need to be spending all that time going into the channel, you know, looking at all those, and that's how we do it. That's how the sausage is made in the sausage factory.
That's helpful.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hey,
Yes.
Shep, June, thanks so much for everything. And I'm just trying to add on Paperly, and it's coming up paper.io. Do you know if that's the same?
Let me look real quick and make sure. I've always done paper.li. But
And would you look at what would you show us what it looks like? Or if you can do that?
Sure.
That's helpful.
Let me see. I put in paper.li. So let me go ahead and share my screen again.
Paper.li. Okay. I'm doing this on my phone and it's coming up with paper.io too.
I don't know. Let me, just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and hit share.
And then there's a charge for that. And then I also went ahead and downloaded Brain Toss, and there is a charge for that.
Yeah, it's like, it's less than $10 though, isn't it?
It's $2.99. $2.99.
$2.99 for your life, not a month.
Yeah.
So yeah, paper.io. Let's see if that's the same thing. It is not. Okay. I didn't even get to it, but here, let's go back to, I'm going to go to customerservicedaily.com. I create URLs for everything. And now you're going to see what my little customer service thing looks like. So this is Customer Service Daily, a compilation of customer service and CX articles and more, brought to you by Shep Hyken, customer service and experience expert. And these are all kinds of other people's articles. Here's one by Jeannie Walters. Here's another one by Jeannie Walters. Here's one by my friend Dan Gingas, Flavio Martins, SAP, one of my clients, shared an article. And then there's videos, and there's some other topics. But you can see over here on the right side where my mouse is, I have my books, and we're promoting. That's the only difference between the free and the paid version, is you can't promote these. So, but I use this more for me than for anyone. And you can see that's today's is, and the next one is 21 hours from now. And I can go back and I can look at yesterday, and there's yesterday's, and there's the day before. And you can see who's real active. There's Steve DiGiolgia, however you say that. He's a member of NSA up in New Jersey, actually. And then there's another SAP. Stephen Van Bellingham is over in Europe. He and I become good friends over the years because I constantly share his content. And you can even see it's been written in a funny language. If I click on it, Yeah, it's Vil Merkin, Syrian hybrid. What you can. What anyway? Let's get out of that. We don't need to waste it for that. But that's what Paperly looks like.
Yep, I had a question.
Sure.
For someone who is just getting started, would you recommend the person-to-person contact instead
Yes.
of social media? Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. I would start writing an article and doing a video. That's very easy to start with. The article, at least do the article, because from the article, you can pull tweets and create memes and post that on Facebook and Pinterest. And because you're using one piece of work to do multiple things with. Okay. So if nothing else, my content marketing strategy, you start with one thing. Now, some people are not comfortable writing, but they're very comfortable in front of a camera and can talk for 10 minutes without writing anything. Well, do that. Do it on Zoom or some other program, transcribe it and write your article from there. But either way, one piece of content becomes multiple things. So if you're willing to do that, then go on LinkedIn and start searching for your potential hit list. And you can create this list of 100, or I did 200 when I first started out, and always try to keep at least 100 in the pipeline, and then ask to connect and write a very nice personal message. Why do you want to connect? I mean, if it comes across real salesy, like you're doing you're spamming them, everybody's getting the same message, it's probably not a good idea to do that. But if you come across personal, like, hey, I noticed your company does this. Well, it's interesting. My background is this, and I feel I might be able to help you. I don't know if you have meetings or not. And if you're even not the person to talk to, maybe you can direct me to the person that can. Anyway, you can write a nice message and start this dialogue. Once they connect with you, you have their email address, and you can start emailing and interacting with them that way. And that, to me, is the new version of the cold call. It's actually much nicer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you very
Great.
much.
Great.
Shep, I
Any
know
other
you're
questions? Yes.
You're being very generous with your time. I do want to at least go ahead and thank you for a wonderful presentation, and your fresh.
Not a presentation. It's not a presentation.
That's
It's an
right.
explanation.
It's an explanation.
No signature stories here.
I'm going to get this straight. I really am. Thank you for your explanation. And it was a really enriching use of a fire hose, I might say, right? You gave us so much that we could use. And I know for me, it's picking through it and say, okay, well, let me use this. How can I use this better with respect to what I'm already doing? So thank you again. I think you said yes right away to doing this, and it was greatly appreciated.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Here's the thing. I got here, and every single thing that I do, I don't have, my content is original, but the way I distribute it and get my name out there, all of that comes from NSA. We were talking about this before we started our session. How many pages of single space bullet point notes that I have from the winter meeting that was only Friday afternoon, Saturday, and Sunday morning? I had 12 pages, single space, bullet point. And you saw my yellow highlights. We were doing this before we came on. That I am a ferocious note taker, a learner. I look at the people next to me and I see I took a full page of notes. They took 2 lines of notes. Are they smarter than me? Or am I smarter than them? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter who's smarter, but if they got what they wanted out of it, it doesn't make any difference. They got what they wanted. So, and this was like, I didn't have any preset agenda. I kind of knew where I was going to go if nobody asked questions, but I always like to cover the basics as well as what I'm doing in this type of a format.
Shep, Winter Conference was absolutely fantastic, the best I've been to. So
well,
I just
thank you.
Put that out there. And I, like you, I used the Notability app, so I did colors. I have more notes than I've ever taken at an event in my life.
Wow. Who is your favorite?
Oh God, I don't know that I could pick. I mean, I said that in some way, shape, or sad form, I almost get them confused. I mean, the workshop with the Vadens was fantastic. Richard Bliss, oh my gosh, the stuff he told us that like we didn't understand how it worked was fantastic.
Yeah, he's the LinkedIn expert. And Rory and AJ Vaden.
Phil was amazing. Jason, I mean, Trust, who's I'm drawing a blank now.
Dave Horsager.
Dave, like they were all, I'm just all of them just blown away.
So I'm going to tell you, the secret, since we're recording this for everybody. When I was asked to chair the meeting, I thought, what am I going to do? So I went to all my friends who I really admire. I say, who do you want? If you were coming to winter meeting, who would you want to learn from? And I got names. And then I said, well, I'm going to be, and then of course the committee came up with some great names. Also, I said, I'm going to be real selfish. Who do I want to learn from? And so everybody up there is exactly who I would have loved to have learned from them. Of course, they were all chosen by other people, but that was like, so I didn't choose anybody that I wouldn't want to spend or listen to for a half an hour, 45 minutes on stage.
And Brian Walters emceeing. Like
oh my gosh,
but I felt like he took it over the top, So
we had another MC that canceled like about a month ago, not even a month ago, 3 weeks ago. And they took a gig. They were a 3-day MC job for NSA, and they took a gig. And I thought, wow, what are we going to do? And I called Brian. I go, Brian, I don't want you to do it because you've done this before, but who else would you recommend? He goes, Shep, no one else. I want to do it. I go, no. He goes, you don't understand. I need to do it.
He was,
he's so generous.
People think emceeing is so easy. And I was sitting here going, the amount of time, even if he's done it before, the amount of time and effort you could tell he put into the prep work that he did for this.
Yep. And that's the secret. Everybody walked on that stage. And I said, and just like I said today, I don't want a presentation. I want an explanation. Richard Bliss is not a speaker. He goes, I'm not a speaker. I go, just tell us what you told me on that Zoom call. Just talk about it to everybody like you're talking to one person. And he did. He nailed it. Rory and AJ, Jay Bear told me, I would love to see Rory and AJ Vaden, but I don't want them for a half an hour. I want them for all 2.5 days. And I said, well, how about we get them for 2.5 hours? And they were the only ones that were, in a long format, other than Randy Gage did a full hour. And Randy Gage brought it home. Were you there for his session as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He brought it home strong. So anyway, for those that weren't there, most of the sessions are going to be in the vault. So if you're not a member of NSA or you're members of NSA, but if you haven't bought the vault, okay, get the vault. It's all there. All right. Should you guys want to take us home? Who wants to do the wrap up?
Well, and I won't be able to wrap it up aptly, but to my point about the fire hose, you gave us so many practical things that we can use. And what I liked that I thought was great was you gave the why to each part of it. Like it was clear to me, clear to probably all of us, as to why are you doing the things that you're doing? And this is something that, we probably as speakers are always evaluating what's working, what's not working. Mm-hmm. And you gave us all of your experience today in this, 1 hour and 10-minute format. It was just really wonderful. And I feel like it's practical, applicable. We can use it right away. So thank you.
Well, I hope that everybody picked at least one idea out. And that's the goal. Anytime you hear anybody do one of these sessions, if I can just get one good idea, it was worth the hour and a half or whatever it is. So, all right, everybody.
Thank you,
I see you at Influence. All right,
Indeed.
I hope so. Can't wait.
Let
Thanks,
us know
everyone.
if we can help you in some way. Thank you.
All right. We're all good. Hey,
Thanks, Shep. Good seeing you.
Marla.
Blessings.
Right.
Bye.
Thanks, Dennis.
Sure.
Thanks, Dennis.